Good morning. Today on Spotlight, we kick off our station coverage of the upcoming annual Mackinac Conference on beautiful Mackinac Island. Chamber CEO Sandy Baruah, he's here with us this morning to give our viewers across the state a preview of what's to come. And later, Warren Mayor Jim Fouts talks about his city's big economic development news and his views on diversity. It's Sunday, May the 17th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. Sandy, welcome back.
Thanks, Chuck.
Whenever you come, I know that it must be spring and it's time for a Mackinac conference.
I'm like the mayflies. I show up once a year. Sometimes unwelcomed.
No problem with that. Roughly 1,700 people, movers and shakers, people from all different walks of life, all different professions getting ready to converge on Mackinac Island. Your expectations this year?
So it is Michigan's management retreat. We are unique in the nation that our top leadership of our state, our civic leadership, our corporate leadership, our political leadership, all gather on one island with no cars.
You can bet that.
For 2.5 days, and we talk about our future, we talk about where we've been, and we talk about strategies for how to make the future even better. And it is a unique asset that I'm thrilled to be the steward of.
Three real big pillars, as I'm looking on your website: talent, urban revitalization, cohesion. How did you come to those three?
So we are very careful. We pick only 3 themes for each conference because there's so many things you can put in a conference, but if you have a conference about too many things, you end up having a conference about nothing, which is okay if you're Seinfeld, but we want to be a conference about something, right?
Okay, right.
So we have a statewide CEO advisory committee, some of the most senior business leaders in our state, chaired by our conference chair, which is Mark Davidoff, the managing director of Detroit's Michigan practice, and they help us create these pillars. And then they also help us determine who are the best speakers, both locally here in Michigan and across the nation, that we want to invite to be on that stage to talk about cohesion, talk about urban revitalization, talk about talent, particularly skilled trades.
You have some major speakers you do every year. This year you've got a lineup, from Bill Ford. You've got the bankruptcy trilogy, I call them, with Kevin Orr and Judge Rhodes and Judge Rosen coming in, and so much more. Out of this lineup, and it's a very diverse lineup. I mean, I took time to really look over it, and there's a little bit of something there for everybody. What do you feel are the real highlights, the must-sees?
Well, again, if it's really focused again on in talent, and so in talent we actually have drilled down on talent. Last year we had a talent focus, but we're really focused on STEM, kind of those really high-skilled, highly educated jobs and the importance of that to our economy. This year we're taking a different tack on talent. It's about skilled trades. These really professional jobs, but don't necessarily require a 4-year degree. We think that's going to be huge. But I think one of the things that people are really going to talk about is this.
Does that kind of, excuse me for interrupting,
Yeah.
Does that kind of speak to manufacturing is back now?
It speaks to manufacturing, but also speaks to healthcare. It speaks to things like welding, and that's why we have Mike Rowe coming on stage. He actually has a foundation really dedicated to accelerating people going back into skilled trades. I mean, some of these skilled trades jobs, you can walk out. Plumbers are, skilled trades, making $80,000, $100,000 a year, great jobs. They just don't require a 4-year degree, but it takes real skills.
You've got Walter Robb with Whole Foods.
Yeah, so one of our themes, urban revitalization. Think about the pieces that have accelerated the urban revitalization right here in the city of Detroit, and one of those pieces is Whole Foods. I mean, Whole Foods has made a business out of doing well by doing good. I mean, they put their store in downtown Detroit, not because they wanted another store, but they wanted to obviously do something good for their financial bottom line, but do something good for an urban community. And that has been a real spark for downtown Detroit. And we want Walter to come to tell that story. And he's become a huge Detroit and urban revitalization booster.
Senator Debbie Stabenow leading the Michigan delegation there in Washington now, our senior senator. And you've got the new congressional representatives, the freshmen.
You know, we lost a lot of seniority in Congress over the last election cycle. So we're inviting the new freshman congressionals that are taking those places. We obviously have Senior Senator Debbie Stabenow. She's actually on our stage. She's talking about the food bill, the farm bill and the food economy, which is really consistent with the message that Walter Robb is going to be talking about, and they're actually going to be on stage together. So again, we're really trying to focus on these themes of talent, cohesion, and urban revitalization.
You have a theme here: one stage, one state, one Michigan voice, which is an interesting theme.
Right.
And it certainly goes to what you talked about in terms of cohesion. But how do you deal with that when it seems like you've got three big negatives here as this state goes? Our roads, as witnessed by what happened on Prop 1. You've got what's going on with our schools, particularly our urban schools, and we've seen a lot of discourse here in the city of Detroit. And I give you guys kudos by right on your website, you say what happens in Detroit is reflective of this entire state and can affect the entire state education. And then you've got that big social issue back there of gay rights.
On the gay marriage issue, I think the Supreme Court is going to be deciding that for all of us relatively soon. We as an organization, you know, we have been supportive of expanding the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to include more Michiganders, because we want to send that message that everyone is welcome to Michigan, and really in a war for talent, we want as many people to come as possible. But all the other issues you mentioned, we're working on the education challenge. The road challenge obviously is Prop 1 defeat was a temporary setback, but I have confidence that the governor with his leadership is going to get to an answer that we can be able to fix our roads. But despite,
you're
hang
really
on,
confident
but
that
Chuck,
this
hang on. Despite those three negatives that you mentioned, and I agree they're negatives, and we're going to have to get through them. Every Michigan indicator, economic indicator, is up. Our unemployment is down.
True.
Our population is up. People are moving back not just to Michigan, but to our urban centers like Detroit. And this conference is actually become a very statewide event. It is no longer just about one particular area of the state. And it now attracts national interest. I know, obviously, you come and the Channel 7 team is going to be up there, but you're going to be with the Washington Post and the New York Times and Yahoo News and all these other national news outlets that are coming to cover this conference, because Michigan is such a positive economic story, and this conference is a great way to showcase that.
You're confident that this governor and this legislature will come to some sort of agreement, to a plan that either they will vote on and get through to fix our roads, or they come back with something else for the voters, because they kicked it to the voters kicked it back to them.
They returned the favor,
and a lot of people consider, not that there aren't plans out there, but is there a plan that they can agree on?
Listen, I don't know what the final answer is going to be. We certainly, as an organization, we have our thoughts. We like the kind of one of the original plans, which was an increase in the gas tax and increase in registration fees. We thought that was the cleanest, simplest way to do that. But here's why I'm confident, Chuck, because there's no other option. Failure is not an option here, and everyone understands that. What the final package is going to look like, I don't really know yet. We're going to be part of that conversation, but we do have confidence that something is going to happen, either this spring or this summer, or certainly by the end of this year, we will have a path forward.
All right, we need to take a little break. We'll hurry right back with Sandy Baruah, and we'll talk about how they grade themselves, which is a very important part of the conference. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Just got through Detroit. Look around the corner and here comes Wayne County. That's not specific on the agenda, but I would imagine it's going to come up. And what concerns do you have? As Warren Evans was here last week, and his concern is if we don't deal with this and deal with this fast, we can be a drag on the entire region.
Yeah, first of all, we think Warren's gone on the right track, and we've been really pleased with how Warren's been handling himself as the new county exec for Wayne County. But we have this this panel of Judge Rhodes, Judge Rosen, Darren Walker of the Ford Foundation, Miriam Nolan, and Kevin Orr. And actually, Rip Rapson is going to be part of that as well,
That's
too.
true,
Kind of
that's
the
right.
architects of the Detroit's bankruptcy. What are those lessons learned, and can we apply them to Wayne County? So I think that Wayne County issue is going to come up at some point during the conference.
All right, and hopefully it gets resolved sooner than later, and so this region keeps moving forward. Economic development, you pleased with what you're seeing so far?
Yeah, I am. You know, the region is really coming together. We have an 11-county region now that is working together on economic development. We have a formal MOU among 11 counties that have agreed to work together, travel together, present ourselves together. We're working on kind of a joint branding effort for the economic development efforts across the 11 counties. It's very, very positive.
You've been doing a to-do list for the last few years. As you look back at what your to-do list was last year and how well you've done, what kind of grades you give yourself?
We pick between 3 to 6 things out of each conference and say we're going to take tangible action based on what was said and what was talked about at the conference. So we're holding ourselves accountable. So between having an actual to-do list, and we actually will issue the report card for our to-do list along with a written report at this year's conference from last year's to-do list. So you'll get a full report. You can hold us accountable for what we did or what we didn't do. And we think that's important. So that plus the pillars being focused on 3 themes, you know, cohesion, urban revitalization, and talent, really provides a targeted agenda for conversation, a targeted agenda for actual activity that takes place afterwards. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to have a conference just to have a conference and say, oh, that was nice, and leave. We want it to really be a vehicle to move the state forward.
To be a catalyst, no doubt about it. And then you'll come out with a new to-do list.
The governor, myself, and our chair, Mark Davidoff from Deloitte, will issue the to-do list for the 2015 conference.
All right. Digital has become increasingly important, and certainly the conference has embraced that, correct?
Yeah, and actually we had to make a significant financial investment in the island's ability to handle all the digital media that is going into and going out of the island. So we work with the Grand Hotel, which has been a fabulous partner for years and years and years, to make sure that you all as media and our guests have the opportunity to make sure that they've got a seamless communication while they're up there.
Yeah, and luckily our technology has improved from the days when we used to have to cart those big trucks across the water. Now we can just put little backpacks and broadcast live as well. So everything has improved, and we certainly look forward to the conference. Any quick final thoughts at all? Anything important that we didn't get to that you really want to telegraph out there?
Well, I think one of the key things that people are going to really walk away from is that we are really going to start, we're really going to tackle at the conference this conversation about what's happening in urban America right now. Yeah. I mean, that obviously is the conversation that everyone is having around the dinner table, around cocktails. You know, we saw what happened in Baltimore. We saw what happened in Ferguson. We obviously live in a state where it's had its own history of racial strife and violence. What are the parallels to what happened in Detroit's past to, you know, what could be Detroit's future? What happened in Baltimore? Can that happen in Detroit? We're going to tackle that in 3 very specific sessions. So even though this is a business conference by business leaders, we're really going to talk about this urban challenge.
Yeah, and you certainly have people on the agenda who have experience with that and can talk eloquently about that. In the back room conversations leading up to Mackinac, conversations that you've had with CEOs as well as community leaders, are those conversations that you've been sort of quietly having because of all the progress we've been making and the fact that that could all go right down the drain if the wrong thing jumps off
So
here?
last year, the conversation that was happening in the quiet room or in the quiet corner was all about the grand bargain, and you saw that after the conference, we accelerated out of that conference and we got the grand bargain passed. I'm hoping the same thing is going to happen with roads. Roads is going to be kind of, you know, that's going to be an issue that we're obviously going to be talking about at the conference, but primarily that's going to be an issue that the business leaders and the political leaders are really going to be talking about, sometimes quietly, sometimes not so quietly, because we've got to fix that issue.
All right, Sandy Baruah, thanks so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure talking with you. I'll see you on the island, and we'll see just how everything transpires up there.
Great to see you, my friend.
All right. And coming up, an interview I did recently with Warren Mayor Jim Fouts. We'll be right back.
Today, we are announcing a multifaceted, multi-year, full-scale renovation of our Warren Tech Center campus, starting immediately. This project represents a $1 billion investment in this complex.
This was a revolutionary place when it was created, but the exciting part is nearly 60 years later, it's going to continue to be a revolutionary place.
It was May 16th, 1956, when Dwight Eisenhower came here for a ribbon-cutting ceremony. If you think about that, the President of the United States was here for a ribbon-cutting ceremony for this facility, and what it has been able to do for Southeast Michigan has been here for well over a half a century.
GM is back in a big way. Warren is proud of that comeback because as GM goes, so goes Warren, so goes Michigan, and so goes the country. And I think C.E. Wilson said that many years ago. I don't know if he said Warren, but I threw that in anyway.
Mr. Mayor, it's good to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Bring us up to date since the last time you were here. Warren, sometimes we forget just how big of a city it is, but it is our third largest city in the state, and a lot of people live there and a lot's going on. Particularly investments and support that you're getting from General Motors, which was a little bit of a controversy a few years ago when you were losing some stuff from Warren, but it seems like you're getting a lot of that back.
Yes, I'm very excited about General Motors. General Motors is back, Chrysler is back, and the auto industry in the metro area is back. And I'm very proud of that because, as you know, I pushed the Buy American and Buy American main vehicles.
I remember you running around with your bumper stickers.
I had a requirement that all department heads and employees were encouraged to purchase American-made cars. And the exciting thing about General Motors, they're back in a big way. Ultimately, they're going to invest $1 billion in the tech center. We just signed an agreement with them for a $419 million agreement, which will be part of the phase. Ultimately, they're going to have close to 3,000 new jobs, and they're probably going to retain another 3,000 to 4,000 jobs. And I believe down the line, it's going to be more than just 3,000 jobs. So between retained and new, it's 6,000 to 7,000 jobs, and it could even be more. It's going to ultimately be about 1.4 million square feet of investment. And in addition to that, just across the street, the Campbell Ewald building has been purchased by General Motors. They're making $35 million in new investment in that building, and that's going to house probably 800 to 1,000 people. So General Motors and the auto industry are back really strong.
You have been a big supporter of the city of Detroit in numerous ways, but a lot of the attention these days seems to be on the city of Detroit and development within the city of Detroit. But I guess you're saying, hey, don't forget about us over there in Warren, that we're getting our fair share of this too, and what we get is good for the region as a whole.
I believe jobs, whether they be in Detroit or Warren, are good for the region, and I want to encourage people to invest in Warren and in Detroit. But I would also add that we have a new Menards going up at 14 and Van Dyke. We have a new shopping center going up at 12 and Van Dyke. We have a new Cadillac dealership going up in Warren. We have a lot of development. So Warren has become a little bit like a mini Detroit. There's a rush by developers and people to look at Warren because Warren is low taxes. We have a friendly police force, and we have all the accommodations necessary to move into the city. And so I encourage business development, and we are business friendly.
And of course, you're part of Macomb County, which takes great pride in saying they're bread and butter county.
I might add this, Chuck. We're only about 20% of Macomb County's population, but we're 43% of the new business investments in Macomb County, and that's just in the past year. With the new GM investment and some other new things going up, we're going to be a bigger share than even that.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and we'll hurry right back and see what Warren Mayor Jim Fouts has to say about diversity. Stay with us. Another sticky issue or potentially controversial issue is marijuana. Talk about trying to get it on the ballot across this state. You have some concerns?
I have concerns about medical marijuana, and I stated that in my State of the City, and the concern I have is that medical marijuana is becoming a commercial industry in residential neighborhoods, And I'm getting complaints from Warren residents who say the smell is overwhelming, because the fact of the matter is that one caregiver can take care of himself and 5 other people, and that means he can get 12 plants for himself, 12 times 5 for the other 5, and he can grow 72 plants. And what happens is marijuana requires high humidity and high humidity, so they have to build a ventilation system, and that smelly air goes out and pollutes the neighborhood. And I have people complaining, especially who live next door to this medical marijuana home, that it makes their kids sick and it makes them sick. It smells like skunk. So there has to be something done with the present medical marijuana law. I have nothing against marijuana, and for medicinal purposes I'm not against that. But I am proposing a fresh air ordinance for the city of Warren, whereby they have to have a filter on their ventilation system. There has to be limits on growing marijuana plants in the residential neighborhood. And frankly, I think medical marijuana should be grown in an industrial area. No neighborhood should have to deal with the smell of marijuana and also the traffic coming and going. And the fact of the matter is that they say this is for medicinal purposes, but instead of it being pot for patients, it's really pot for profit. And we've already busted some homes where they've had around 100 plants and they're wheeling and dealing marijuana for profit.
Final question. You received a letter not too long ago from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. And what did that letter consist of?
The letter commended me for being strong on diversity, and I believe, I know in Warren, I'm the first mayor to honor Martin Luther King with the Martin Luther King Day celebration at the atrium. And I've also increased diversity in the city of Warren by appointing the first African American fire commissioner. Over 1/3 of the planning commission is African American. African American compose a significant part of our human resources department, and I'm very proud of the fact, including even appointing the first Muslim to the planning commission, that Warren is not an exclusive place, but we're inclusive, and I encourage people of wide varied backgrounds, whether it be race, ethnic, or age, to be part of this administration. And she took note of that.
To the city of
I
Warren.
think we've made big progress from a time when the previous mayor made some statements that weren't in the best interest, talking about Fortress Warren and building up a wall between Detroit and Warren. I want to include more people in the city. I want to encourage business to move in, and I want to be inclusive, not exclusive.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure sitting down and talking with you. Good luck with everything out in the city of Warren.
I appreciate that.
And a special thanks to all of my guests today. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.